order this regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Bandera. It's October 15, 2020, 6 p.m. for the Recreation Hall at Mansfield Park at 2886 Highway 16 North, Bandera, Texas. All council members are present. City Secretary is present. Our Administrator is present. Our Attorney, Dan Santee, is present. The Marshal is still here somewhere. There he is. There's Dan. Dan. Will. Okay. Before we get any further into this meeting, I want to say this to you all, please. I don't know what's going on out there all over the place because I got out of it early. But this is not about ending music in Bandera. I don't know where that has come up to. It's not about restricting music in Bandera. It's to review the ordinance that has to do with noise in Bandera, and that's all it's about. So if y'all are here to speak to keep music, please don't do that. In fact, we're all very well aware that music needs to stay. That being said, I want to move forward to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Will, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together this evening. Thank you for your many, many blessings you've bestowed upon us. Most notably, thank you for this gorgeous day we've had. Thank you for your Son who died upon the cross for our many sins. Lord, I'd like to ask you to please bless us all, bless the City Council, so they make wise decisions, so they think about our best interests. Lord, mostly I'd like to ask that you remember and remind us all that we're all, in the end, neighbors, brothers and sisters in your love. Lord, please bless us and keep us, and thank you for saving a mess-up sinner like me. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 is visitors to be heard. Shall not exceed 30 minutes total. I want to read to you some of the guidelines. Citizens wishing to be heard may do so on all matters except personnel matters, matters listed on the agenda as a public hearing, and matters under litigation. Each person addressing the council must provide his/her legal name and current address for the city records and meeting minutes. Each person will only be allowed to speak on matters on the agenda during citizens' forum public comment. No rebuttals will be permitted. Each person addressing the governing body shall not exceed 3 minutes. Section 551042 Government Code PTCA, Texas Open Meetings Act, permits a member of the public or a member of the government body to raise a subject that has not been included in the notice for a meeting, but any discussion of the subject must be limited to a proposal to place a subject on the agenda for a future meeting. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any individual member thereof. Any person making a personal, impertinent, or slanderous remark while addressing the council may be requested to leave the meeting. All right? So, who's got the stopwatch? The first name on this list is Patricia Moore.
Thank you, Council, for giving me the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm addressing you as a citizen of the town of Bandera, city of Bandera, as well as the Bandera County Convention and Visitors Bureau. You've just stated that you recognize that music is extremely important to this community and its culture. We are here to state that again, we believe in that strongly as the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I don't think there's a single person in this room that does not recognize that fact. It is part of our economic development. And I would just like to state the economic industry of the tourism industry to the city cannot be ignored. In 2019, it accounted for over $12 million in direct earnings, 370 people employed, and almost $384,000 in direct travel spending tax dollars. So, the other point I'd like to make, and where it is important as well, if Bandera thinks it's important, so does our governor. Governor Abbott thinks it's important enough that the Texas Music Office resides under his umbrella of economic development. That gives you an indication of how important this industry is, not just to Bandera, but to the state. And technically, the Texas Music Office has now created a program called a Certified Music-Friendly Community. The Convention and Visitors Bureau is working so that we can reach that certification. So, again, as you address all the things on tonight's agenda, please bear in mind these important considerations of this industry in both our culture and our economic welfare. Thank you.
All right, Gunner Witt? Gunner, are you here? If you're standing up, I should be able to see you. You're taller than everybody in the room. Okay, then we're good.
Mayor, he may have wanted to speak via Zoom and we lost internet connection, so I'm trying to connect back. So if he is on there, I will let you know after the next speaker.
Thank you. Then I'm going to move on to Darcy Hasty. Darcy?
Hello, Council. I'd first like to say that I want to reiterate, just like the mayor had said earlier, that I don't believe anyone's trying to stop live music in Bandera, and some of this has most definitely been blown out of proportion. The rumor mill is strong in Bandera County, but I love that everybody's shown up. I think that it's wonderful that Bandera loves Bandera, and we want to keep it that way. However, I would like to echo some of the comments that I made in the profit in saying that I do believe that the ordinances need reviewing and revising in some instances. This is most especially true during this situation and others like COVID, where there are unforeseen circumstances, such as that the bar owners were and may be again forced to push patrons outside through no fault of their own. Although they are allowed to bring people back inside right now, like Arky's was just able to open a couple of days ago, we don't know that the governor's not going to shut it down again in a couple of days. So I do ask you, council, to please put something there for these bar owners and restaurant owners in effect to insulate them, from losing more funding. They've taken a big enough hit. If I were on council at this time, I would start looking with section 8.04.010 and look at changing the ending time for outdoor music to midnight rather than 10 o'clock on Friday and Saturdays. I'd then look at section 8.04.008 and let the citizens know that they may file a complaint at any time and it'd be taken seriously should there be problems. They have every right to do that and they should be taken seriously. Lastly, I'd ask the council for transparency tonight. As for any complaints, not speaking on anything specific, but I would ask for transparency as I always do in public meetings. I ask that all items that can be kept in open session be kept in open session. We as citizens have a right to know about any and all complaints levied against our elected officials and also hear their defense. So I'll end that so more people get to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Okay, good. Gunner's not back on yet.
We had internet for a minute and then we lost it. There's no internet in this building, so we're working off of hotspots.
Okay.
And there's quite a few people logged in, so I think it's making our internet connection unstable. So
Okay,
it
then
is what it is.
we'll move on to Stella Tedesco then. Stella?
Thank you, City Council and citizens of Bandera. Thank everybody for showing up. I'm not up here to speak on the sound ordinance. I'm up here to speak on the character of Jill Shelton. I know there's been some...
Stella, we have to stay on an item that's on the agenda.
Is it not on the agenda?
You're not, that, Jill's not up on the agenda, and therefore, I'm sorry, you cannot speak to
Okay.
Jill's character. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Item 5, number 5, Denise Griffin.
I just want to say thank you to the city council and, like she said, all of the citizens and the people of Bandera County showing up here. I just want to be short and sweet. Yes, everybody here is concerned about the music and y'all possibly doing something to slow it down or quieten it. Just keep in mind that the lifeblood of Bandera is the tourism, and the music is what brings it in. So I just would ask that y'all keep that in mind, consider that, and all these faces are the ones that are really wanting that, so.
Councilman Russ?
I'll go up to the podium.
Ma'am? Sir?
Go up to the podium.
Yes, please. And remember, Jerry, the part about the governmental body to raise a subject has not been included in the notice, so we'll move on from there.
You'll keep me in line.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jerry Russ. I reside at 760 Highway 16 South. I've owned a business in Bandera for almost 18.
Use the microphone!
You can't use your mic voice. Okay, is that better? Sorry about that.
Don't be yelling.
My name is Jerry Russ. I reside at 760 Highway 16 South. I have owned a business in Bandera for almost 18 years. I've lived in Bandera for 6 to 7 years. I love the town, and I love the music, and that's what helps keep Bandera, as somebody else would say. I just wanted to clear things up. I originally asked for the noise ordinance to be placed on the agenda item. I wanted to clarify, review, and come to the same understanding, get on the same page among all of us, meaning city council, code enforcement, law enforcement, and the public. That was the only purpose. So we could clarify and make sure that we are interpreting that ordinance the same. No way would I ever consider shutting down the music. I think there's people here that can verify I've enjoyed that music several times over the years. Not as much as I used to in the past, but that's the gist of it all. I just want people to understand, wherever you heard these rumors about me wanting to shut something down, my business is an RV park. I have a lot of RVers that come into my park for the same reasons as most people that come to Bandera, to enjoy the entertainment, the nightlife, and the live music. So why would I ever think about damaging my own business, let alone the city itself? Never would come up to me. So I've explained to you my purpose for putting that on there. I hope people will respect that I was only trying to do the best thing I felt for the city, because we did have a lot of confusion. We had a lot of situations where code enforcement just wasn't sure, to be able to enforce these things. We had things go on so long that they finally exploded with an incident that some people have heard of. And if we had taken action sooner, I feel that we would have never got to that point. So that's what I was trying to achieve. And I got something else in the meantime. A lot of people jumped to conclusions. They were not kind or nice to me or my wife. And I don't follow social media so much, but for us to have our reputation damaged based upon just rumors, when totally false, no matter who or where you heard it, that's disturbing, that people would jump the gun that quick. So I'm asking that people rethink their opinion of me and realize that the truth is what I'm telling you. Okay? Thank you all very much.
podium. A rebuttal is not allowed, but a comment of fact is.
I can't hear a thing.
And I owe you and Jane a public apology. I do apologize to you. for
Well,
my
that's
Facebook post.
greatly
And I
appreciated.
want all these folks out here to know that
They can't hear
We
you
can't
now.
hear anything. We can't hear anything. Her microphone's not.
I said. Nope, it's not my hearing aid. What I said was, I owe Jay and Jerry Russ a public apology for my Facebook post that might have started some of this agitation. And I sincerely mean that, Jerry. I should never have gotten out there. I apologize.
And I fully accept that. And I thank you.
Okay, Jay?
Suzanne, can I ask you a quick question?
Watch those computer.
Based on the agenda.
Thank you for your apology. I've already written my speech, so
Oh, go ahead.
if everybody wants somebody to be mad at, I guess it would be me. For 18 years, we've owned Riverside RV Park next to the Bandera Lodge and the old location of the Boot and Saddle Saloon. This has been a rough week. In that time we've owned the park, we've never had any problems with bars there until recently. I placed several complaints about loud music being played outside after the hours stated in the noise ordinance. The marshals told me the bar moved outside to the side of their building so they could stay open. Complaints were received from businesses in that direction, so they moved to the front of the building and the sound came towards us. Our customers, who include families, complained about the loud noise and the profanity that could be heard over the loudspeakers on some nights. Marshals responded to the complaints and told us that the music was too loud and that they told them to turn it down. I told them they should have told them to turn it off since they were out of compliance with the ordinance. The marshals agreed, but said they were getting their orders from Marshal Dietrich and the mayor. I know the bar has said they were abiding by the ordinance, but they weren't. The noise ordinance clearly states that outdoor open venues cannot play amplified music at all Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, it can only be played from 5 to 10 p.m., Saturdays noon to 10 p.m., and Sundays from noon to 5 p.m. These aren't my rules, this is the city ordinance. I made no complaint against 11th Street because they, by definition, are not an outdoor open venue. I also never said anything about shutting down all live music. We have a business to run and we need to address our guest complaints. These guests create revenue for the businesses in town and they matter just like the bars. The sale of the chicken coop is not final and the mayor still has ties there. They violated the days and hours of the ordinance as well. They encroach on the city right away with their tables and garbage containers in the street. The mayor doesn't enforce the noise ordinance when she herself is violating many other things. Had this been handled correctly in the beginning, we wouldn't be here tonight. There also would not have been the violent incident at Bandera Lodge a couple of weeks ago. A request was made for tonight's agenda to review and clarify the noise ordinance so everyone would be on the same page. We never asked to have anything changed in the ordinance. When the agenda came out with the wording, it was not what we requested, so we asked for it to be removed. The mayor decided to keep it on with her own wording and get everyone worked up. The pot continues to be stirred rather than admitting the failure to enforce the ordinance.
Thank you, Jane. Okay. Number 7 is Linda Stein.
No matter what, I'm not staying. My doctor doesn't want me here. Bandera, keep Bandera, Bandera. I'm from old school. It's keep Bandera Western, and should be. But the reason I'm here is I'm very disturbed about the newspaper article and about everyone I've tried to talk to about this situation. I get a different story from everybody. Y'all are appointing someone to the city council who was an employee of this city and was fired. Not for the first thing he did wrong, but he was fired. And he threatened to sue this city. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. Maybe you didn't live here when this happened, but this should not happen. This is wrong. It is not a good idea to do this, and I'm asking you to reconsider whatever vote, whatever y'all done, you need to rethink this, because things could get out and get really ugly if all the truth comes out, so let's just bypass that. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, we've got a lot of people on this list. Is there any of you that have something other than keep Bandera, keep Bandera Western? Is there anything else that we could bring to council besides that? You have an agenda item.
I know, but you're asking the audience, you're asking
Well,
me.
you're not on here.
I know. Isn't that a section of censorship? They signed up to speak. Let them speak.
That's correct, Jake. We have. I'm not,
You said at the beginning, if you're going to talk about the music, don't talk about it because it's kind of already decided. And that's why we're all here.
no, that's
It's
not
because
what
of
I said.
censorship.
You heard what you wanted to hear, Jake.
Well, you're fixing to hear it too.
Okay, well, we're only going to have 13 more minutes of public speaking because it's a limit of 30 minutes on the agenda.
We're wasting
okay?
time.
Carry on. Okay, Jim Dodson? Jim, I know you're here. I saw you a little while ago.
He probably doesn't.
Okay, let's move on down the line. Jim's not here to speak.
Yes, he's here. He's in a maroon hat back there. He probably cannot hear you. Jim, maroon hat.
Mario, hang on, I need to find, we have to go in order here, folks. Where's Jim?
Right there. Right back there. Right there.
Hi, y'all. I'm Jim. I'm 92 years old. I have lived here about 6, 7, 8 years. I'm going to live here and I'm going to die here. But what I'd like to ask you tonight is, why in the hell do we have all this commotion in such a little bitty town? Who started the 5 o'clock dance deal? Who started it? Huh?
Jim, we're really not allowed to answer.
Who started the deal about having the horses go down Main Street with dropping on the street? Who started that? Must be a lie, huh?
Jim, we're not allowed to respond.
Well, what I'm asking is, why bring up all this bad stuff when the world is so bad as it is today? I love Bandera, and it is the cowboy capital of the world, and you can't take the dancing away from me. So I just listen, people. Don't make this world worse than it is. I may die tomorrow, but I have a good time here since I've been in Bandera, Texas.
Guys, I got a long way to go. All right, Karen Hale? Karen Hale.
You signed up?
I'm sorry.
She didn't know she was signing up to speak.
I don't want to talk.
She's just going to sing you a song.
Yeah, I'll see you.
Paul Hillman.
That's you, Paul. That's you.
I'm sorry?
Yes, it's Hilliard.
It's you.
Okay.
Hey, I just would like, on behalf of everybody here, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up and I think the unity is huge. Everybody's, everybody showed up. But I think the question on everybody's mind is, what are we here for? What is the ordinance, and what are we changing, and what exists now? Because everybody's like, well, what are we talking about here? What is the ordinance, and are we planning on changing it? And if we are, what are you planning on changing it so we can discuss it? Or can you not respond to that too?
Well, when we get to the item, you'll probably understand it better, but we really can't respond to you. We can't have a conversation at this point.
You cannot have a conversation at this
We
point about
get-
what we're here about.
Not during visitors to be heard.
Okay. At some point you will though. That's all, just clarification, that's all. Does that make sense? That's all, just clarification. Okay?
Wait just one second, Mr. Hilliard. It's very simple. During this portion of the agenda, the council is not allowed to give any sort of answers or rebuttal. However, when we get down into item 5, the body of the agenda, council will be able to, citizens will be able to ask questions. Not really engage in conversation so much as just a question and answer sort of situation, but not during visitors to be heard. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that makes perfect sense, and just speaking for, I think, I'm a musician, and I speak for a lot of us, so the reason we're here is the word on the street was that they're shutting music down. Now, obviously, that's not what's happening, so we want to know what is, that's all.
Thank you. No, that's not what's happening, sir. Mario Munoz.
Council, how we doing? Everybody from Bandera, there we go. My name's Mario Munoz. We had just purchased the chicken coop not too long ago. We've been doing a lot of renovation over there, fixing it up so everybody can enjoy music over there. With this COVID, obviously everybody's in an upstorm. Everybody is not in their natural habitats as far as bars. You can't be inside, restaurants, 50%, 25%, yada, yada, yada. Everybody knows about COVID. It's an everyday thing. It's normal now, okay? So the codes, I don't know the exact numbers of them, but the codes, the governor said, okay, sell beer to go, sell drinks to go. That's fine. Everybody has a right to make a living, all right? We're in an industry that's getting hit the hardest. Okay, so out of all this other stuff going on, so we made a way where we can make money, sell, and get off the premises is what the law is. So we were using TXDOT, we're using the city of Bandera right-of-way, and as far as that goes, the right-of-way, we had the code enforcement officer go out there and show us exactly where their right-of-way is. We were not on it. As a matter of fact, the bridge is on the right-of-way. I don't know how that happened. It's supposed to be 55 feet apart. And that road is not near even that wide, okay? So we were not breaking any rules as far as the code enforcement officers went out there and checked. They checked everything. We weren't in any way breaking the rules. So anyway, back on the subject, we went ahead and tried to do what we can to make $1 to keep on living, supporting our families like everybody does every day. Okay? So what we're asking is the code, whenever y'all review all that stuff, on special circumstances like COVID or something else falls into place somehow in this world, especially in the state of Texas. If y'all could please put in there somewhere saying, okay, this is a special deal. If this happens again, can we extend or go get a permit or whatever to keep on trying to survive and to keep on supporting our families like everybody in the United States has a right to do. Please, mental note, just try to keep that in mind so if something like this ever happens again, we have something to land on. Thank you.
Scotty Kaufman? Guys, there you are.
Howdy y'all, my name is Scott Kaufman. My friends call me Scotty. I don't have anything really new to share, just reiterating that anything that impedes the ability for a business in this town to generate revenue, to bring that revenue into the city, I'm dead set against, and I know everybody here is too. I get the part about clarifying the ordinances, but my personal opinion, I'm completely with Mario on this. If there's a special circumstance, there should be some clause or a variation, if you will. Lord knows, I mean, I'm friends with half y'all and, that work there at the city. And, I learn a lot about how things happen and all that. And unfortunately, there's laws, but somebody wants to change them. You file for submit a variation, and it usually goes through. So laws are not black and white; they can be flexible. I would just encourage City Council to keep that in mind, especially with the economic development and the hits that this town has taken with COVID, and friends like Jamie Brown shutting down Vaqueros and plenty of other businesses who have done what they had to survive this. Anything that encourages that growth, even if it's impeding, anyways, I've said what I had to say. Thank you very much.
Holly Madeline? Midland?
Basically, y'all
I know who you are, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Holly, you're still.
I pass, you've already said everything that I had to
Carry
say.
on, yeah, okay. Jana, we got time for maybe one or two more if you want to speak now, or during the agenda
It's going
item.
to be really short, sweet, and simple. Basically, I'm just here because I've become very familiar with items on agendas that are very vague.
Would you step to the
broad.
podium, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to save somebody time. Okay, basically I came because I'm very familiar with items being put on agendas that are somewhat vague and overreaching. And obviously, the city of Bandera cares about what happens in regard to Section 8 or whatever it's called of the city ordinances. And I think that it's a wonderful showing. The rest of what I would have to say is really in regard to whatever it is that they were going to propose or talk about. I know what they've said, but if you look at the item agenda, it's very open-ended. And I've done a lot of research on it, and I just wanted to make sure that I understood what was happening and be able to speak to it if it does happen. I think that y'all have very adequately voiced your opinions, and I think your presence here voices your opinion. So thank you.
All right, folks, we've been at this for 30 minutes now. I apologize to 8 of you that we don't have time to get to today, but there will be an opportunity later during the agenda if you want to address an item in a question and answer format, please. Okay, item 4 is the consent agenda. Rebecca makes the motion to approve. Jerry seconds. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item 5 is the regular agenda. 5A is swearing in a newly appointed council member to serve until the November 3, 2020 election. Alan Calloway, where are you?
Suzanne, Mayor,
Yes.
I have an objection if I may state it, please.
Sure.
Turn on your mic. It's on. It's on. It's just not working?
No, it's not working.
Can I hold your microphone? Oh. Okay. Okay, is that better? What's going on? Closer? Closer. Close enough? Can I, oh my gosh. Just stand up and speak. Can I go to the podium? Is yours working? There you go. Thank you. I just will take a moment here. At our last regular meeting, this council voted to approve Alan Calloway's appointment to fill a vacancy on the city council. For those of you who don't know, 2 of our sitting council members were appointed themselves, and 2 were voted by the citizens to serve. During the discussion on the appointment, one of the appointed officials asked if there were any other men running for council. His decision was based on discrimination, and I feel he should have recused himself. That's a personal choice, but at the very least, I would ask for the person who originally made this motion to, what's the word? Reconsider, please. That's it.
Thank you. Jerry, I believe you made the motion. How do you want to take it from here? Jerry has the floor, Don.
Kind of a surprise
Yeah.
to make a split decision like that. Is there any alternatives here? I'm open for options here. I don't know what's available.
Dave, would you just take your hand?
What's the question? I can't hear him over here.
You got the new guy asking questions. I'm not sure what my options might be.
Well, so what under Robert's Rules of Order, which you've adopted as well as your Rules of Procedure, it allows for an item to be reconsidered at the next available meeting. So what I heard Mayor Pro Tem Gibson ask was whoever made the motion originally, if they would make a motion to reconsider the item. If that motion is seconded and passed, the item is back open for further discussion.
Okay.
You're not obligated to do that. It would have to be the maker of the
understand.
motion at the last meeting.
Jerry?
I would like to make a motion to reconsider.
May I second?
Hang on, folks. Okay, we have a motion and a second to reconsider the nomination of Alan Calloway to fill the seat. Hey, we're never gonna get out of here. Do I have discussion? Did you want to, you had your hand up, did you want to say anything? No? Okay.
been covered.
Okay.
So my only discussion would be, I would really prefer that this sitting council not make the appointment, wait till after the election, and let the elected officials make the appointment to fill the seat.
Yes. Jerry?
Yeah, I'd just like to explain why you make decisions sometimes that may not make sense to other people. I'm sorry. My biggest reasoning for that is because I didn't want to put us into a situation where we didn't have enough quorum to address items, because you could very easily have somebody else out sick and et cetera. So I believe in running with the full council or a full board, whether it be EDC or city council. So that was my reasoning. Right or wrong, sometimes you don't always make the best decisions, and I'm not afraid to admit sometimes. At least to open up my mind enough to listen to other people's opinions on it. And the voice of the community more than anything else. And I heard the community, I believe.
Thank you, Jerry. Any further discussion? All in favor of reconsidering the appointment of Alan Calloway? All in favor, none opposed. Alan, the council has reconsidered that appointment, so please feel free to apply again after the election, because there will be a vacant council seat at that time as well. Okay, item B, discussion related to the Bandera Code of Ordinances, section 8.04, noise. I considered recusing myself from this particular discussion since I was perhaps fueling the fire at one point, but I believe now that we all understand what this is about and where we're going to go with it, I would like to sit here and carry on with the discussion. So, that being said, item B is discussion related to Bandera Code of Ordinances, Articles 8.04, noise. Jill? Yes, sir.
Can I make address a couple of comments that were made during citizen comment? So, Dan Santee, City Attorney. So just to get this started, because I know there's been some questions about how the agenda was written, and I heard it attributed to me. I wrote the agenda item, and I purposely wrote it as broad as I wrote it because
I knew what Councilman Russ, what his intentions were, what his opinion was as to needing clarification. But I also knew that we needed to discuss some of the options that your citizens have actually already recognized, which is a need to address things during times of pandemic like we have right now, where we might want temporary measures that we put in place that supersede what you have here without repealing that. And so I don't want the mayor to take my arrows, because I was the one who wrote the agenda item. I purposely wrote it broad enough. And then we had a citizen who wanted to make a presentation, so we included that as a sub-item. If we write it too narrowly, it eliminates the possibility of considering other options or even discussing other options. So we wanted all options to improve the ordinance on the table, and I just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, item B1, presentation from James McGrory regarding amendments to Article 8.04, noise for the city of Bandera. James McGrory and council would like to address Bandera City Council regarding action on his item. James, is your attorney present?
No.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to have you introduce him. Go ahead.
I'm James McGrody, 307 11th Street Cowboy Barn. And I'll just say one thing before I get started here. The reason we're here today, and I appreciate the broad expansion of the sound ordinance itself, but history states that we've been up here 5 to 6 times with different councils, with different agendas, different motives, different interpretations of the law. Between the 63 decibel level that backs up to a house or to a 70 decibel level that's in the commercial district of Bandera, Texas. So we've been in lawsuits. There has been numerous amounts of money spent on both sides. I've been involved since 2006 at 7 different council meetings, and we could never come to an agreement because council at those different stages had different definitions and different agendas that they were trying to push down the citizens' throats of Bandera that really hampered our business models that we have in Bandera today. And that's why I wanted to be on the agenda today, because I'm going to start from the top and we'll go down to the bottom. The sound ordinance 804, noise sound ordinance, since 2006, needs to be revised. It's unworkable, and it's a failure for a facility that is in the music business, because you will not and cannot, in certain incidents, adhere to the ordinance itself. So with that being said, I'd like to thank the council and everyone in attendance for allowing me to address every one of the great citizens of Bandera and Bandera County. As requested, all of my comments and concerns will be addressed to the total members of council and not directed at any one person or anybody in association with the guidelines of the council. For the record, can council inform me, the public, the person that requested the agenda item being placed on the October 15, 2020 agenda in reference to Bandera Code Ordinance Article 8.04, noise? And is there any reason why this was placed on the agenda and to be recorded today, please? Who requested it to be on the agenda?
Who requested it?
Who requested it to be put on the agenda so we can get it in the record?
Well, it is in the record. It's in the minutes of the October 1 meeting during requests for future agenda items. And that was Councilman Russ, and there was a brief discussion during that item about where the agenda item was going to go. If I'm incorrect, Jerry, would you straighten me out?
Go ahead.
I mean, that's it.
That's good.
I didn't hear you well.
It's in the record.
I'm sorry.
What I said was on the October 1 meeting during requests for future agenda items, you had brought up, actually I think I initiated the conversation, that you wanted to review the sound ordinance.
Correct.
And since it was requested at a meeting, the obligation and our ordinance says that it should be put on the next agenda. That's how it got here. Yes,
There you go. But the wording was not the way I wanted to go on the agenda. So over the weekend, I had emailed the mayor, even Dan and Jill, and notified him to remove that from the agenda. So actually, the one that's on there now, on the agenda, was sponsored by the mayor, correct?
I assume sponsorship of it because, for one thing, it needs to be discussed, Jerry. And secondly, once an agenda is posted, I can't unpost an item. So
Respect that.
that's why we're here tonight.
And point taken, the way it's on the agenda is why I'm here.
Well, I think we've clarified that. That's the main issue, and I believe our attorney has clarified that too. There are all kinds of options in this particular agenda item. There's a continuance, there's a workshop, there's a series of workshops. There will be no decision tonight, I don't believe, on behalf of the council. I'm speaking on behalf of the council now, and I shouldn't be.
And let me finish.
Okay.
And then we can get to it. Okay. After my points of concern, I will take any questions that may you have to ask me in regards to this, because I've been involved from day one in regards to this ordinance, and I know the ordinances for the Texas Hill Country. Remember, one council member said, Bandera's people are not smart. But to say we are truly not, we don't have to be smart, we just have to be smarter than the person that's asking us the question. All right, let me finish here. How we got to this point. And the reason why we got to this point is come to the attention of myself, business owners, and the citizens' attention. The timing in this matter is based on personal vindictive agenda by certain council members and members to push through a proposal.
Okay, keep it, would you keep it neutral, please?
It is
We're not gonna have
neutral.
names coming
It
up.
is neutral. I'm addressing the council. It's not individuals. This is the feeling. What has happened? Push through a proposal and change the sound ordinance in retaliation for the lack of enforcement on alleged cases.
Okay, James,
Cleared that up, I thought. I'm sorry, objection.
this is, I think we've moved past
Yeah,
that, I believe, so we've discussed that, we've moved past that,
When have we discussed it?
for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I made my apology for my post, and
Did you miss that?
Rebecca.
Thank you, Suzanne. Dan, is there any reason that a council member should be stopping this man from speaking?
No. I don't chair your meeting, it's the mayor is the one with the gavel, so.
Well, I don't believe that name calling and.
We're not name
I didn't hear any.
It's not a form of censorship.
Okay, carry on.
I mean, I'm not the one that came up here because I put the thing on the agenda. We're answering why it's on the agenda and the true facts in relation to it.
But
We're gonna have time.
the item on the agenda is not what the councilman requested.
It's the reason I'm here is why it's on the agenda, regardless of councilman. It affects the businesses of Bandera on the sound ordinance, regardless of anybody that puts it on here. It's an agenda item. Regardless of anybody that puts it on it, it affects the businesses of Bandera if you want to change the ordinance or discuss the ordinance or change the decibel levels to it. That's why we're here.
Well, that's what we'd like to do if we ever get past whatever it is you're fixing to say.
Well, if you quit trying to censor me, it's not your place to censor me.
Just let it finish, Jerry.
No, you. I'd like.
I'll note your objection is noted.
No, I'm gonna remove myself.
Gee,
I'm gonna leave
Louise.
the meeting.
We can't hear.
Okay?
Can I continue?
Councilman Russ is going to, you're leaving the meeting, we still have a quorum, so we can carry on.
Can I continue? All right.
We're here to try to fix this. So
All
let's
right,
move
let me
forward.
finish where we're headed with this thing. All right. The way it looks, and my definition, and a lot of people's definition, only reason It first started from the original time when councilmen wanted to put it on the agenda, is because the installation of temporary members to stack a vote in relation to the ordinance itself. Let me go on with it. It is clear the timing is so agenda-driven. 20 days before an election, 3 council members have resigned. The stacking of non-elected council members to force a vote down the throats of the citizens of Bandera. And why I say that, if I wasn't sitting up here saying anything, there isn't any reason that y'all couldn't table it, or you could put where we have 10 decibels and pass it with 3 votes. Okay? That's where I'm headed. This is out of our character, and I hate to say, this is the working and the backdoor politics from a liberal outsider thinking of the changes of Bandera are the way of our lives. Us in Bandera aren't going to stand for it. This has happened since I've been in business here in Bandera 3 different council times. 3 times. Money was spent, lawyers were involved, and those times. And the reason is because of personal agendas. There's no way in God's green earth in 2006, and Denise, you were there and as mayor at the time and everything, has anybody got any water? Or a beer? Now I got you. All right. The timing in this matter is ridiculous. It's so clear that the agenda, 20 days before the election, 3 council members resigned. We ought to ask the council members why they resigned. The stacking of the non-elected council members to force a vote down the throats of the citizens of Bandera. It's all based on the sound ordinance itself. This is out of character, and I hate to say, this is the working of backdoor politics from liberals from outside that are trying to create a problem within our city. We, the people of Bandera, will not tolerate it. We don't want anything to do with it. Our business, our livelihood, the people of Bandera are better than this. Timing overview. During the COVID-19 pandemic, everybody was affected, except council. The bar, the music, the industry. 11th Street was down 6 months, 21 friggin' days. Closed. Your bar, other bars, the bars that, why we're here today, the trouble at Bandera Lodge, the boots and saddle, the shit in the, the stuff in the street, was all created. I was open 3 friggin' days until all this came about. And it was created by somebody that got their feelings hurt. And it surely wasn't me because I enjoyed the beach. All right? Not one council member had missed a paycheck during that period of time. The mandate shutdown through our state government was mandatory. Archie Blue and the 11th Street Cowboy Bar, based on our license, we could not open. The MB licensed people to go. Y'all could. We couldn't. All right? We couldn't get the stimulus money. All of our employees are 1099 people. They don't get the money. You have to be W-2 employees. Take in consideration the sales tax and the bed tax revenues are down by 34% due to the mandated shutdown in Bandera. But remember, not one council member is in the retail service tourist industry. that we depend on the income of the sale of our products and services related to our industry. Music, dancing, tourism, and alcohol. That is what Bandera is about. The true fact and how we got here today. The true facts are as we needed. And let's be truthful about this. One member did not get his or her way in regards to an enforcement issue related to 2 music venues. Why do we know this? It's because the amount of call-ins from the individuals or the family individuals on the complaints of the amount of times they called in one night, 8 in one night, about the complaint of the loud music. The enforcement is the issue. It should have been listed on the agenda as an enforcement issue, not an ordinance issue. If it was an enforcement issue, I wouldn't be here today. An ordinance issue could put us out of business. A big definition of difference. As proven in the documents and the paperwork that was requested under the Freedom of Information Act, the amount of calls made by the one council member's family and members in regards to the sound ordinance. It's an enforcement issue, again I say, not an ordinance issue. And the micromanagement of the sound Nazis and the sign police we have in our community at present has to stop. Let enforcement do their job, and they do a very good job, believe me. Will and everybody else, they do an exceptional job. If we do something or the decibel level is just a little bit over, hey, turn it down, dum-dum. We do. Okay? The problem that we're having now, we've seen this before. We've seen it during the Hearst-Pulaski time. We've seen it during other people's time. That just because they're in a position, they think that they can interpret what a decibel level is good and what is bad. They have no idea because they've probably never seen a decibel meter in their entire life. But if they hear it and they don't like ZZ Top playing and it's not Ray Price, first thing you do, we get calls in. And this has happened for 12 years. This is not the first time this issue has arisen due to the unreasonable and unworkable sound ordinance. And this goes back to the original sound ordinance where it all started back in 2004, 2005. That was put into place years ago to try to enforce a business to close. Everybody knows it, but no one wants to say it. All right? The ordinance was put in place when Mayor Robert Skinner, Robert and I are good friends, we went to school together, born and raised here, and we've had long conversations in regards to this. The history of the ordinance from 2004 and 2005. Everybody that's not from here, that doesn't know anything about it, it was the Robert Earl King versus the City of Bandera lawsuit. Again, the city screwed up and was sued and had to pay 50-something thousand to Robert Earl because of the lack of the enforcement from certain individuals at that time that owned 11th Street, that there was no sound ordinance in place. So what did the city do? And it's proven, it's in deposition, it's in everywhere it's written. They came up with an ordinance, word for word, that Fredericksburg had. You can look at it, even the misspellings on there. And they took the decibel level and lowered it so low, knowing that no one could meet it. Today, we're still dealing with that same friggin' ordinance in some cases. So, with that being said, the ordinance, again, was designed into closing a business. So we're struggling all these years. And when we say, well, we know what we need to say about the ordinance itself, and no, we don't. The ordinance is non-workable. And that's what we need to talk about. The same unlawful practice that was stacked council at that time for votes, that voted this unreasonable ordinance into place. The agenda was put on the council's agenda. It was voted in. The next day, the police, the sound Nazis at that time, went to the bar and tried to close them down. This is where we are. This is the sound ordinance that I'm talking about. So, let me keep on with history here. Moving on to today. For some reason or another, why open up the problem that was been capped off for the last 12 years? Why today? Why 3 days before an election? Non-citizen voted council in place. There was an alternative motivation to make this ordinance stricter. I'm totally a believer of that. I'm convinced there was an alternative agenda if we hadn't shown up here tonight. That's a true fact. Let me get it right. I know we only have 30 minutes. But it even gets worse. It bothers me when a council person posts on Facebook, if you do not live in the city, you don't have a say in the city politics. This is exactly what they used to say in 2005, 2006, 2008, my lawsuit on the alley 2007, all these years. This is what's been said. So I hate to say this, but everyone in business or has a financial investment in the city, regardless of what council thinks, we have a say. We do. If you can explain to me why we don't have a say, because we can't vote in the city, I just want to run through a few items and let it sink in about the city of Bandera, the town that I was born and raised in. And think about when someone says you don't have a say in the politics of the future of your financial investment. So with that being said, so Wells Fargo in Bandera doesn't have a say. 11th Street Cowboy Bar doesn't have a say. Kickback Corner does not have a say. Bandera Bank does not have a say. Texas Hill Country Bank does not have a say. Hondo Bank does not have a say. McMullen Insurance, Archie Blue, Judge Evans, Boyle Realty, Hill Country Embroidery, Busby's Barbecue, Jana Lindy, County Attorney, County Commissioner Jack Mosley, he should be here, OST, all the beauty shops in Bandera, JS Liquors, Texas Spirits, Cowboy Store, Mason Hunt, the Antique Mall Investments, Johnny Bull, the True Value in the liquor store, Plummer's Funeral Home, Lowe's Food Stores, Trip Tire, John Deere, Hebner's Lumber, Dr. Jafar's office, for God's sake, the real estate companies in Bandera, all the attorneys located in Bandera that has their offices within the Facilious Hill, the new Best Westerns that just moved in here to town that maybe in 5 years we'll get. All the board members of the Frontier Times Museum, Chamber of Commerce, Better Business Bureau, the board members of the Bandera Visitor Center, Flying L, Dude Ranches, everybody that brings people, Warrior's Heart that just bought the hotel, and the list keeps going on and on. Every one of these people do not live in Bandera. And for someone to say they don't have a say-so is wrong. Without these people, without these people, there isn't a Bandera. I hate to say that, it is, and it's a true thing. And the list keeps on going on. Shame for not understanding the people that make this community great. These issues that we're faced with today are a repeat from what has been well documented, tabled over the years by council and business leaders. Council members, lawsuits, workshops, and a paid master plan that studied the effects of what the music industry could be for the future and growth of the community of Bandera, that the city of Bandera paid $80,000 expenditure that would throw us into a whole different level 10 years ago, which we should be there today, was thrown in the trash can, and what a waste of money for the taxpayers of this community. It was a crying shame. And at that time, the council said, hey, one of our council members can rewrite it. What the heck? And we just paid $80,000. I might add, city officers need to write the Governor Abbott and inform him, as I am a member of the Texas Music Office for the state of Texas, and 11th Street has been designated with the Governor's Office. And I might add, and inform him to take Bandera off the short list we're on as a nominee to be designated as a Texas music city in the state of Texas within the likes of Green Hall and San Antonio's Hispanic Culture Center downtown. So, if we have council messing, regardless of how you want to interpret, well, that's not what we meant, that's not what we said. It's what's on the agenda that counts. Not where somebody's little feelings are hurt or anything like that. It's what we need to do going forward. As I know, the people behind this actions are not smart enough to realize the impact it will have on the future of tourism and the music industry of Bandera. And I'm not cutting to the chase here because I'm a solid believer. What everybody said today, I know we can get back to this, but what happens when we say, well, we're going to get back to this? It never happens. It never happens. And then enforcement comes into play, and then the council, they kind of squeeze the enforcement officers. I'm on city council, you better go over and tell them to cut it down. You know, and that's a problem. As going forward, council needs to adopt new guidelines in reference to and instruct city council members to quit micromanaging the day-to-day operations within the community and remove the enforcement officers' telephone cell numbers off speed dial, and to quit making our great city employees suffer in the persistent hostile work environment that is created by only one person that I can see and confirm. And that person needs to readjust his council members' ways and means or actions and resign, as far as I'm concerned, as we as taxpayers will end up in a lawsuit that our tax dollars were wasted one more time. As I have stated, time before time since 2006, on my return home to Bandera, where I was born and raised, I have been in virtually every meeting or aspect in regards to the sound ordinance. I know it by heart. I know the state guidelines by heart. I'm trying to work with the city, and I can work with the city, and the citizens of Bandera can work with the city, and we can come up with an ordinance that is good for everyone. We're so close. But when you have an ordinance that states 63 decibels, when you border commercial versus residential, an electric toothbrush radiates 80 decibels. A lawnmower is 87 decibels. The state standard is 85 decibels. Will's radio is 92 decibels. I'm saying, let's be realistic, we can work through this issue, we can get back to track. But somebody needs to grow some and get it on the agenda, and let's get it done.
To the secretary. Sure. Okay, we're having some technical issues again, so it's not just City Hall, folks, it's everywhere. So we are going to have a recess, and we'll get back here at 7:25, okay? So, all right. 7:30, I'm reconvening this regular meeting of the City Council, City of Bandera. Item 2, City Council discussion of options and possible amendments to the Bandera Code of Ordinances, Article 8.04 noise. Rebecca.
Oh, okay. My thoughts are just that we should hear from people who have relevant experience with the ordinance and hear some suggestions on how that ordinance should be changed. And then in the future too, if we need to have a temporary ordinance to suspend any parts of it, to better cooperate with businesses who are operating under funky circumstances right now. So I'm just open to hearing suggestions, and if we need to have another workshop discussion, maybe after the election, when you have a governing body of members of council who have been elected by the people, that we can continue the discussion at that point. But I know James, you made mention of the decibel levels, and then I don't know how relevant the part about outdoor venues is at this time, if there's any businesses still needing to operate outside. But I'm open to hearing any suggestions.
Denise?
Rather than trying to figure it all out tonight, wouldn't it be a good idea to maybe put a committee together of all different walks? Some people out in the county, business owners, citizens, all of that, and get like 10 people to try and come up with something to present y'all?
You volunteering?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll back on Denise's side. I agree, but I disagree. I believe that the people that are involved in this committee, not like in years past, we need people that are in the industry, which they will be affected.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the outline, like different council people, like Don, his home borders Bandera, but it's to the commercial industry too, that could give us feedback, or some other people within the guideline of it. Just everything that I'm trying to prevent that the council to force down people's throats, that this committee needs to be biased in regards to coming up with a solution, not where we are today with the ordinance that's unworkable for the citizens or the people of Bandera. Because you're going to have the problem with the ordinance itself right now, and I'll just throw this out there, is that Bandera is logistically located in a bowl. If it's cloudy, it's louder. If it's raining, the sound is louder. You can be within the decibel levels of 70 dB, 50 feet from your front door, but they may hear it 6 blocks away, and it could be 75 or 80 decibels. And then Will and everybody else has the hard time of, where is this coming from? Is it coming from Main Street? Is it coming from down at the park? Is it coming from like during the bike rally? Our decibel level was within the guidelines of the ordinance. But we had a motorcycle that's out in the street and everything was roaming 87 decibels.
And everybody in Bandera's going, "Well, 11th Street, damn bikers, it's too loud." And, it needs to be to where that, and it goes back to the noise issue. Is it an allowable decibel level of sound? Or is it a person that doesn't like the specific noise? And that's what we deal with a lot in regards to, well, it's really not, in years past, we got into, well, we really don't mind the music, but it's the motorcycles, or it's the big diesel trucks, or it's, the football field. But the football field's exempt, which a lot of people don't know. And the band, it's exempt. But I believe that whoever's on the committee, and I'll help my best or whatever needs to be, I'll be on the committee too. But it needs to be an ordinance that is workable for the citizens of Bandera and residential and the commercial industry of Bandera. But the 63 dB that was put in to run people out of business back in 2004 is non-workable, and a 70 decibels, 50 feet from the front door is unreasonable also. If you raise those by, say, 63 to 65 and 70 to 75, you could make it work. We're so close. But the most important issue is that if there is a complaint, and this is the #1 complaint as owners, council has enforcement on speed dial instead of coming in to a call center and it's registered. They call the marshal's office or something, it's too loud. Well, what's it based on? You know what I mean? It should come through a call center, and what's your name? It's Stella Tedesco. What's your location? What's the problem? And registered as a formal complaint. Because some people, back in the day, could have been a competitor calling in and saying, well, the music's too loud, the marshals come in and disrupt. And why it's so important to get to this point, because it was said by council, the existing council, the proposal tonight was to come in, our establishments, give us a citation, pull the music, shut us down for 24 hours. That's why I'm here. And that was said to me by council members.
By council, sitting here.
Not right now.
That certainly verified that. Okay, Ms. Janet.
Just very briefly, there's a lot of difficulty too with decibel meters. I mean, there just really is for their accuracy, etc. And what you're talking about is criminalizing something that cannot just be subjective. There's got to be an objective standard. So you start weighing this back and forth. Well, is it reasonable? Is it unreasonable? Let's use this decibel meter to make that decision. And I'm just going to throw this out there. The state statute to me is fairly reasonable, and it's a situation where if in fact they're violating the ordinance, then they get a notice and they need to pull it down to what's acceptable to the enforcement officers at that point in time. And if it doesn't go back up, they're not criminals, basically. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what you're doing, and it's very difficult. You've got a hard job there to try to figure out really how to make it objective and without using a decibel meter, but then you've got decibel meters that really are not very accurate.
I will say this to you on that subject quickly, and then you can have it. At one point, I was working for James over at 11th Street, and one of my jobs was to take this decibel meter that we had calibrated in conjunction with the ones the police at the time, not the marshals, were carrying around. And so one of my jobs is, this is cool. Oh, the wind's blowing. That's not good. Yeah, and it's really hard to read. Will, I believe that you wanted to say something?
Yes, ma'am. I don't want to talk myself into being the bad guy here, so I'm going to try to be brief. You know, enforcement's been touched on a lot, but historically in a little over 7 years that I've been here, I've worked nights and days and then been in charge on days. we generally, first of all, don't issue a citation right off the bat, especially on city ordinance stuff. We try to get compliance, and so I don't know that there's been more than 1 or 2 noise ordinance citations issued in the entire 7+ years I've been here. For the longest time, we only had 1 decibel meter, and it's only been recently that I purchased another one. And if you view it, or citizens, from a customer aspect, the people that call, historically, when I was on nights and somebody called and said, hey, the music at 11th Street it's the bumping, it's the bass, that's what's, I would generally drive over there by that person's house and, well, that's what I would hear, and go up there, and regardless of the time, go in there and speak to the manager and say, hey, we can turn down that bass just a little, and never had a problem. Oh, okay, you can turn down the bass a little. I drive back over by whoever calls house, didn't call them, hey, is that, oh yeah, that's fine, or, oh, it's not quiet, it's better, but it's not, we're just trying to sleep. That was always a very workable solution. What we've gotten into now is what was referred to as an enforcement, and I think that's a misstatement, because the person that did the majority of the calling did not like the way it was enforced, in that she believed that the outdoor venue meant that at 10 o'clock on Friday and 10 o'clock p.m. on Saturday and 5 o'clock on Sunday meant that the music stopped. And that's not, whether you like or agree with the ordinance or dislike or don't agree with the ordinance, that's not what it means. That's not what it says. It just means that at those times, those outdoor venues are now, the rest of the sound ordinance applies, the decibel level, they're susceptible to them. She didn't like that or didn't accept that that's what it meant. And that's the enforcement section she was unhappy with. And that's where we're at with that. I think it could be streamlined, it could be better, and I would certainly be on board with being involved in that. But I certainly say we need live music in this town. For this town to survive and thrive and grow and improve and do better, we need it. I'm glad to see it turn out. Anytime when citizens come out and get involved, I wish we had a turnout like this every time we had a council meeting.
Mayor,
Yes, John,
may I ask Will a question?
Sure.
Will, what part of town are you getting the most complaints from? Not all of it.
I'm going to tell you, Don, it's hard to say, because as James alluded to, we're in a very strange environment, because the weather plays a huge.
But the wind's blowing east and west.
When the wind's blowing, when it's cloudy, when I lived here in town, I lived a good distance from 11th Street, but there were some nights that I would step outside and I could tell you if Ricky Adams was playing. Other nights I would drive by 11th Street on the way home. I was like, phew, I'm gonna be able to hear the band, at the house. And I would get home and nothing. Would not be able to hear a lick. There would be nights that I would walk out of the back door of City Hall and I would get angry. I mean, physically, I would be angry. So it would sound like the band was in the back parking lot at City Hall. It was that loud. And then I would drive over there to 11th Street. They would still be playing the same song, and it wouldn't be a tenth as loud on the street in front of the bar as it was in the parking lot at City Hall. And I've heard it on 14th Street, the same way, where it was loud as you wouldn't believe it. And then you get over there to the bar and it's same level as it always is, and nobody else is calling to complain. So it's very hard to say, and that's why it's hard to put okay, well, this decibel level, and if you send an officer over there and it's this level, then we're going to write them a ticket, or we're going to pull the plug on it. Because I think that's very unfair and very hard to enforce. And I think we have a very good working relationship with James and Stella. We had a good relationship with Suzanne before she was on the council, before she was the mayor, and we'll continue to have one with Mario and them. I dislike the councilperson's wife's impression that we answer to her or do anything different I think she would say that we don't handle anything different. I've talked as sternly to Suzanne at times as I have to James when I believed it was necessary. And I believe everybody here should be treated the same.
You know, well, the reason I ask this is I live 2 or 3 blocks away, you know where my home is there. And it's not ever that loud, it's comfortable. So I'm wondering what's causing the difference in sound volume. So we live 3 blocks away and we'll sit on our patio and enjoy it. It's like
When are y'all gonna start this committee?
Sorry? What was the question, Suzanne?
He wanted to know.
What's your name, sir?
Mickey Burleson.
Okay. You need to
When
let
are
me
y'all
know.
gonna start the committee? Is there gonna be anybody on it that knows anything about live music?
James McGrody.
Okay, well, why do you say,
Okay, hey guys, let's talk
yeah,
up this direction. Yes, I'll tell you what. Jill, could you provide a sign-up sheet over there by the door for a name and a telephone number for anybody who wants to be on this committee? And we'll try to organize some sort of kickoff session somehow, somewhere. What, James?
I don't
Shaking your head.
Have it at James and he can
Do you want
provide all the
counsel to
beer.
arbitrarily committee? Is that
No,
what I don't know what you're.
I don't know how to say this.
Say it.
All right. We don't need this council to be a shit show. We need people on council that have skin in the game, that will direct the betterment of everybody for Bandera. That's important. If you have $1 million investment and you're in the music industry and you know the city, you know the town, you know the people, you grew up, everybody needs to be in compliance in regards to that. You know, not just people because they're a musician or non-musician. Musicians are the worst about turning music up.
I'll rest my case.
There you go.
Okay, in a case like that, do you want a workshop perhaps? We could set this for a workshop and that would be a.
I think you ought to pick
that's a
10
very-
people that's unbiased and that has common sense, that can write a sentence and be proactive in the best interest of the
And
community.
have a business in Bandera.
Yeah, I mean, she can do it.
Mayor, I agree with James. We need to appoint a committee, or the council needs to appoint a committee of people like thoughts in and out
I
of the
think Don
city.
Clark ought to be on it, for the simple reason. You know, because he lives in the city, and he'll be a voice for the residents of the city. I'm talking about everybody. Now, Mrs. Smith, you're gonna hear everybody's music because you're so high up on that hill.
But the thing is, all I have to do is go in the house and I don't hear
I don't
nothing.
think you do. So, you know, but, you know what I mean?
But I enjoy your music.
Thank you. It's free.
Yeah.
Mario?
The whole deal is, the reason this been called, honestly, is a few people that are calling and complaining. I mean, the whole town's not complaining, the majority of the town are at 11th Street or another bar listening to music, you know? Is there any way we can turn around and call a nuisance call? Because it's the same people calling something more serious than going and saying, oh, it's the same person, I gotta come and check on you.
It's really
You know,
good.
you were here 15 minutes ago, it hasn't changed nothing, but music is just another song. It's the same people over and over and over calling. So we should be able to do a nuisance call and say, hey, they're being a nuisance, quit bugging us.
Is Rilla here? I'd like to hear from her.
James, it's still a workshop, we're still in a meeting, okay?
The sign-up sheet is
So
by
I
the
don't think,
door. The sign-up sheet is by the door. If anybody wants to sign up on the way out.
oh. Hey, Brad. There's a sign-up sheet over there by the door. Let's see who signs up. We'll see who lasts through this thing because I want to sign up myself, having formerly had a business, being a currently the mayor, if I'm not, but I won't own a business in town, but I would like to be involved because I've been subject to a lot of this, and I don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair. So, yes, Ms. Nancy?
Do you have to be a citizen of Bandera?
No.
No, ma'am, absolutely not. You know, when you say the word Bandera, you're not talking about this 1 square mile.
Right.
I feel like the last 25 years I've lived in Bandera, but I've only lived in town for 9 of those. But I've been within 5 miles of the city limits, you know, all that
Well, I
time,
figured,
so.
I'm in Pipe Creek, so I didn't know.
That's
if I
close
could-
enough.
I'd like to be a part of it.
Can I just, real quick, 2 things before, and I think we're ready to move on, but one thing I want to address is a council member making the claim that if you don't live in the city limits, that you don't have a voice at city council. There's nothing legitimate about that statement whatsoever.
It's true.
And the second thing I'll say is and maybe Dan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it is actually against our code of ethics for council members to give directives to employees. So for a council member to call an officer of the law and tell him how to do his job is highly inappropriate. Or any other city staff. Right?
That's right.
Thanks.
And that's one of the things we modified in that agenda item too, before we printed it.
So from here, what are you suggesting?
I just said that was one of suggestion for a upcoming agenda item that I struck from the agenda because I was not going to address enforcement. So, in an open meeting, because the council has no business instructing law enforcement.
Yeah, what I'm asking though is as far as this committee and the workshop, are we ready to move on? Are you-
Oh, I am. Y'all ready? Okey-dokey.
Thanks, y'all.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I do have a suggestion,
Okay.
Suzanne.
Yes, Jeff.
I do have a suggestion. While you're having this committee and you're waiting on their findings, is there any way you can do a temporary amendment and raise the sound ordinance by 5 decibels?
Clarify the times.
We can create a temporary amendment, but what we want to make sure is that if that, a temporary ordinance, we want to make sure that says the right thing, so we kind of.
All I was asking is there, you can do a temporary variance on the ordinance, allowing 5 more decibels, pending the output of the committee.
It would be an option you can come back with, but we can't create it tonight because we don't really have anybody.
I just want to throw that out there.
Hold on.
You know what?
Back here. Wait a second, James had a phone.
All right. One thing,
Hey, guys, one at a time, please.
one thing that everyone has really missed in relation to this is really 2 things. Is that why is it 11th Street's the only person or the only business getting that sound ordinance exemption for the larger weekends? If there's music at other venues, you need to do like we do. You need to go ahead, and regardless if it's indoor or outdoor, regardless if you think your music's gonna be louder and it's gonna meet the state regulated 85 decibels, I don't agree with $150, but, because everybody else's is 25 to 50, but why can't they get the same permits that I'm getting, given the notification in the newspaper? So in reality, it's gonna cost you $250 to give you the breath of fresh air. And it makes the enforcement guys easier, because when the R's of the world call in that my parents not sleeping, then, well, they have a permit and everything goes away.
And it may be that businesses don't know that it's available
they
to
know it's
them. Well, then all they gotta do is go get one.
Well,
nobody's ever been turned down.
Well, here's a for instance. So we had a big weekend. Our band shut down at 12:30. Now, this was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
They shut down. At 12:35, somebody was calling in that 11th Street's music was still playing too loud. We had a permit that weekend. Our bands were done. It was on Main Street that it was happening, but they just assumed it was us.
Oh, I know.
That happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
And I can assure you, the last 6 months, 21 days, we have not had a problem.
Okay,
Yes, Mayor, I really don't care about the noise. I like his music. I know Bandera's making money. It's great. I was just hoping he was going to give a contribution or contribute to Ed Van Halen for passing away. I want to hear that.
all right, folks, are we ready to move on now because we really have some
Yes.
business we need to approach? We've got two really quickie items right here. One is item C, approval of resolution 2020-011 to prevent mining and drilling on city property being utilized for a Texas Parks and Wildlife Park development project.
Move to approve resolution.
Rebecca makes the motion to approve. A second,
Yeah, I didn't hear what she, yeah, I'll second.
Don second.
I didn't hear you, Rebecca.
My motion was to approve the resolution for the grant.
Okay, good.
And this is part of the process we have to go for the Texas Parks and Wildlife grant that we're looking at for the playground. Further discussion? All in favor? Don, you in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, she has to
All right,
tell
all in
me
favor,
every
none
time.
opposed. Item D, approval of resolution 2020-012, authorizing an application to Parks and Wildlife for a local park grant program for playground equipment.
Move to approve.
Rebecca makes a motion to approve. Don seconds. Discussion? This is part of that same grant process. All in favor? Oh, will you discuss? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item E, discussion and possible action regarding a complaint against City Council Member Jerry Russ by City Secretary Jill Shelton for violations of Bandera Code of Ordinances, Section 1.03.255, conduct of city officials and employees, and Section 1.03269, positive workplace environment. Jill, you want to take the podium, please, ma'am?
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Jill, not to interrupt you, but just quick clarification. I was under the impression that we were going to hear some procedural information first.
If the council would.
I would appreciate that, if that's
Sure.
okay with you. And my other question was just in regard to moving on with this agenda item, given that the person facing the complaint is not here.
By his choice.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I understand, so,
Okay.
but the complainant is present.
Okay.
The council can hear the complaint. If the council chooses to table the item after hearing the complaint because you want to allow Councilman Russ to be able to respond before any action is taken, that is up to the council. But my understanding from the complainant is she's present, would like to present the complaint. Procedurally, so as you know in your code of ethics, it does not have everything spelled out, and that was by choice when it was adopted by the council. We're going to follow your regular procedures that are in the code. If you're whoever the chair is, has the right to direct the proceedings as they go. We'll have the complainant proceed first. If Mr. Russ comes back and wants to respond, he'll be allowed to do that. Other than that, if the council has questions that are legal questions, you can go into closed session and ask legal questions. That would be the only reason why you would do that. And also in the code of ethics, which I hope you all have a copy of it, it tells you what the authority of the council is in response on when you make a decision on an ethics complaint. They are limited. Obviously, you cannot remove a city member of the city council. Okay, so you're limited to sanctions, censure, I believe it says reprimand perhaps. If you need any legal guidance on what that can involve or what that is, we can do that in closed or open sessions when we get to that point, if you decide to go to that point tonight.
Dan, at this point, because I was a witness to part of these occasions that started this complaint action, I'd like to hand the gavel over to Mayor Pro Tem Gibson and not still participate, but have her actually conduct this part of the meeting.
Sure. Yep, that's appropriate if you were a witness.
Thank you, Dan. And Joe.
Greetings, council. Can you hear me? No. Hello? Hang on. I want you to hear me.
I can't hear you. We'll fix it. No.
I thought this was new equipment. I thought this was new equipment.
Hey, we're fine, but I was just standing
Greetings, can everyone hear me now? Yes. Okay. First of all, thank you, Stella, for trying to speak on my behalf and the other employees of the city. I apologize that you were shut down and not able to speak. That's unfortunate. But I would like to start by saying good evening to the council members and the mayor that stayed for this part of the meeting, as well as all the citizens that are here. I'm before you tonight to address the complaint I filed against Councilmember Russ for his conduct, unprofessional behavior, and disruption of a positive workplace environment. This January will be my 4th year with the city of Bandera, during which time I've accomplished a lot and brought the city leaps and bounds from where they were in the inner office. I've been through 3 city administrators and going on my 4th council. Most of you were not part of the council who appointed me. Therefore, I would like to say the first request by council was that I go to training and become a Texas registered municipal clerk. That is an in-depth 3-year program through the University of North Texas, which I completed early. I was even awarded several scholarships along the way. All of this shows my dedication to the city of Bandera. I have had some council members in the past who were a little rough around the edges, some very strong-headed, some very passionate when it comes to the city. But Mr. Russ is in a league of his own. Councilmember Russ came into this seat with personal agendas from day one and thrives on starting trouble and causing turmoil, even making statements to me before a meeting like, "Watch what I do tonight." I've instilled in my staff not to take abuse from anyone, including citizens that are cussing or screaming. I either immediately go to the front or take over the call. This is what management is. I would like to remind council that all employees and council members took civil treatment training in the workplace back in August. A lot was brought to light during that training. Please see the attached chart that was one of the slides during the training regarding uncivil behavior. Mr. Russ is doing the exact things that we just went through training for not 2 months ago. It is no secret that I am a very open and honest person. My entire staff knows they can always come to me. The one thing they all agree on is how they feel as soon as Mr. Russ pulls up out front. I worked 22 years in the private sector as an administrator for a multi-million-dollar company in a man's world, and have never had anyone talk to me so harshly. I come before you as an appointed employee by the council, the same council that can remove me from my position, to ask you to get him under control. He has overstepped his boundaries and he has to be stopped. If you look in the documents I provided for you in the training we took 2 months ago, you'll see uncivil behavior triangle. The biggest one is rude and unprofessional behavior, dismissive and unwelcoming behavior, abusive and bullying behavior, and the very smallest one is illegal. Most of those he falls into. And then there's also one on civil foundations, if you'd like to read that. So on October 8th at 3 o'clock, Mayor Shulman asked me to attend a meeting with Mr. Russ. Because the week prior to that, we had a very heated meeting, that she had a very heated meeting with him and did not want to be in a meeting with him alone. So she asked me to sit in at the meeting. Mr. Rush showed up and said he had to make a phone call and he'd be right back if we could just give him a few minutes. At which time he went out and made a phone call, and within 2 to 3 minutes, Councilmember Clark was up. So we all then at that point went into a meeting. The mayor had asked me to record the meeting prior to, just because at the time she thought it was going to be Councilmember Russ and her and myself, and the meeting before got very heated. I've transcribed only 30 minutes of that 1 hour and 11-minute meeting that you all have in front of you. I was told by the attorney that I could read the whole transcription tonight. I'm choosing not to because I don't want to stand here and talk that long because I have other things I have to read. So, but it's important to note that during that 30 minutes of this very heated conversation, at least 3 times in blue that I have highlighted, Mr. Clark stated to him almost exactly, go smoke a cigarette or have a beer. Calm down, go cool off, calm down. Go smoke a cigarette, have a beer. So Mr. Clark was very much so trying to get him to calm down because he was up out of his chair, storming around, waving his papers. At one point, Mr. Clark says to him, he says that Suzanne is trying to explain to him. Well, he's not listening. So, during this part of the meeting, he says to me that, let me just get to that part real quick. He says to me on his way out the door with his papers in his hand, he comes back over my desk and is standing over me, looming over my desk with his papers in his hand, waving them, staring straight at me, not at anybody else in the room. Another thing I would like to add, since other people are here, I request that you never question me again about my motives. It is not any of your business, and to make statements. I said, what did I question you about your motives? When we were in here together the other day, I said, it wasn't me. What did I say? Okay. Then further down, he says, I'm just letting you know because I was going to file a formal complaint, but I told the mayor I wasn't going to do that. I would be kind, be nice right now. Telling me to be nice right now. I said, maybe you should be nice. He said, oh wow, I guess you don't realize your position here. Wow. I said, yes, I do. He said, you have no right to question me. Again, I said, I did not question you. Again, Councilmember Clark goes on and on to try to tell him to leave. And it goes back and forth. I'm not going to bore you with it. If y'all want to get it in a public record request, you can. So he says, yeah, you did. It's okay, hon. And then Don says, go smoke a cigarette. No, I'm not going to until we have this finalized. Jerry begins to leave the room in haste and stops and comes back to my desk and says, I made that request for the overtime sheets. When might I see those? He requested it that same morning at 11:13. I have 10 days to provide documents like that. I said to him I put the request in. He said, well, she told me today. I don't know who she is because I didn't. Well, she is working on other things right now. I'm not going to go direct a city employee, so if you can find out for me. Mayor Shulman says, I talked to her. She is working on bank recs today, is off tomorrow, Monday's a holiday, and Tuesday is payroll, so maybe Wednesday. Okay, it takes 5 minutes to run, so no cooperation. trying to suppress me, trying to keep me from when I request information. I tell you what, I would like to see it on the screen right now, or over the next 15 minutes, or even an hour. Suzanne says it's not here. Well, I don't want to go in there and direct an employee, so I'm requesting that you or Jill come and give me the information. So that would be directing me. I'm still an employee. Don't know how different that would be. So, again, he tells him to go cool off. After about 15 minutes, he leaves. I tell Councilmember Clark and Suzanne how upset I am, and by this time I'm a little bit emotional because there was a lot of screaming, a lot of going back and forth, bouncing around the room. He's standing up, acting like he's going to leave every few minutes or so. Councilmember Clark agreed and said he understood and he appreciated me and that he really did, and he was very kind and obviously in that way, so thank you for that. Another complaint that I made was Councilmember Russ continually trying to have me swear in or appoint Alan Calloway to the seat in the city office and not at the city council meeting. He came in and instructed me to do that several times, to which each time I said no, it will be done at the public meeting. He wasn't happy with that, so then he sent a text to the mayor, which you will also see in the packet that she shared with public information, that says October 6th, like the third time, is she calling Alan to schedule a time for his swearing in? Still trying to direct me, but now through the mayor. And as you can see, I did not do that because Alan was not sworn in tonight. A few days before that, on October the 8th, he came in and sat down with a list of 8 items that he wanted on the agenda. At which time I told him that why was he giving me this list as if that was the mayor's place to give me a list and he should fill out an agenda item request form. Said he'd never seen one, never filled one out before. Not true, because I have some with a signature on them. So that was the first meeting that ended up very heated, that got me to where we are now from the second meeting following that meeting. So overall, it is his temperament, his behavior, and just the way he treats not only me, but my staff. I have 4 letters here, and they're from staff members. I'm going to read them. I'm not going to read the names, even though they're there, but I had several people very concerned in my office about coming forward and standing up to this bully because they're in fear of retaliation. And, rightly so, he's got his people, but they also know that I will always support them and I will have their back. And they agreed to let me read their statements tonight, even though they were very hesitant to do so. So the first one says, Dear Jill, I wanted to express my concern regarding Councilman Russ. On several occasions, I have felt uncomfortable while the councilman is in City Hall. The following occurrences are examples of his behavior that not only make for an uncomfortable atmosphere, but is disruptive to my work environment. Number 1, the council member routinely opens the closed gate and walks into the back office without regard when the sign on the door clearly states authorized personnel only. On one occasion, the councilman was in the city administrator's office and I could hear him yelling all the way while I had customers in the lobby. On another occasion, the councilman was in your office and again, I could hear him talking very loudly and again, there were customers in the front lobby. As you were aware, I was an EDC board member. Upon learning of my appointment to the board, the councilman member gave me his cell phone number so we could discuss my views on certain topics regarding the EDC. The next one is, and these are all from people within City Hall, excuse me. And I'm almost done. To whom it may concern, this letter is to express my concerns regarding Councilmember Jerry Russ. For the last couple of months, he often creates an uncomfortable work environment while he is in City Hall during his frequent visits. He displays a complete lack of regard for the staff working the front desk as he marches through the gate, where he then goes to private offices unannounced and lingers until he is acknowledged. Often these visits lead to closed-door meetings which become heated and raised voices can be heard through the doors. This puts the front desk staff in an uncomfortable position, having to explain to residents and customers what is happening in the office. These meetings have reached the point where yelling can be heard throughout the office. There was one instance that was so bad, Jay ended up leaving the office without warning and without saying if he was coming back for the rest of the day. This puts the staff again in an awkward position and creates an uneasy atmosphere. Jerry also frequently interrupts staff and asks for information during his many visits. The staff is busy with day-to-day operations of the city and cannot immediately drop what they are doing. Usually, if he does not see or receive whatever information he's requested right away, he tries to intimidate the staff to expedite his request. There have also been multiple occasions where he has alluded to my personal knowledge and recognition of preferential treatment of business owners in town regarding city businesses. This has occurred inside and outside of City Hall and is not only inappropriate, but completely inaccurate. To whom it may concern, Jerry Russ has been coming to City Hall a lot since he was elected. He has come in complaining about one thing or another and has shown his angry side quite a few times. For one instance, on 9/15, Jay and I were sitting in a private meeting discussing the budget when Jerry came into Jay's office disrupting us, stating he wanted a copy of the bank statement and CD current accounts. After giving him a printout, Jerry said that he was not happy with Jay for not watching Martin like he should. Jerry said it was due to Martin not clocking out for lunch and had collected $6,000 in overtime. I left Jay's office. I could hear Jerry yelling at Jay. I did not recall the exact words exchanged by Jerry, but it was very disruptive. Jerry stormed out of City Hall around 11. Jay left for lunch. I went to lunch, and when I returned, Jay was in his office. Another instance on 10/9, Jerry sent a records request for more timesheets on 7 employees. In addition to the 3 employees, a few minutes later, he showed up at City Hall wanting to look at the budgets for 18-19, 19-20. I gave him the binders containing the information. He asked when I would have the reports ready for him to pick up. I told him I was reconciling the bank statements and that I was taking a vacation day on Friday. I also reminded him that Monday was a holiday and Tuesday I was going to be busy with payroll. I told him the soonest I could get him the reports was going to be Wednesday or Thursday, which was in the 10 days for a record request. He in turn stated that he was running out of time and needed the reports sooner. Jerry walked out of my office. A few minutes later, I heard him yelling from Jill's office. The door slammed and he left. These are just a couple of times Jerry has come into City Hall disrupting the staff and demanding things, whether it be reports or answers. He does not stop in the front desk so the clerk could announce his presence. He has rudely interrupted meetings with just walking into the staff's offices unannounced. He has treated the staff like they are beneath him, and he has talked down to them. I feel he is rude and disrespectful. I also do not feel comfortable about being in my office alone with Jerry, not knowing what he might say that I did or did not say. Last one. To whom it may concern, while Jerry has never personally verbally attacked me, I've been in the office countless times and heard him raising his voices at others, interrupting people in the middle of working or discussing things with other workers and slamming doors. I've seen several of my coworkers be very visibly upset after he leaves the office, so much so that I have seen people have to leave the office because he would not leave and they were getting too upset with his attacks. I have seen others be in tears after his visits. These actions not only disrupt the office and cut down on our productivity, but they create a very uncomfortable environment for everyone in the office staff, and customers. Hardly any work can get done with constant interruptions and yelling going on. Not to mention, it is extremely embarrassing when you have a customer or defendant standing in front of you or on the phone with you and they can hear the raised voices and slamming doors. Another problem I have personally faced with Russ is he barges into the office with no regard for myself or whoever is at the front desk. There have been countless times he walked straight past me, even though I say they are in a meeting or they are not here right now, they usually being Jill or Jay. We have a gate and a large printed sign for a reason. There should be some sense of privacy in this office, and no one should ever barge into Jill or Jay's office unannounced. Again, that disrupts the productivity of the office. So with that said, that is why I have brought this complaint before council tonight, because he is not only treating me this way, also the other staff members, and I feel like it's my duty as their manager to stand up to him for everybody else, because enough is enough, and I'm not going to be treated like that by him or anybody else. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. At this time, I guess I'd be curious to hear if any of the witnesses to these allegations have any comment to corroborate or dispute.
Since I was there, I suppose I should make a
Thank
comment.
you.
Get closer to it. Okay, sorry, folks. I was there, I did go there on purpose. I was worried about Jerry saying something or saying something out of line, and I did at times speak to Jerry, cool it, keep him under control. I don't know where we're headed with this, whether we can take him off the council or whether he can be reprimanded. We cannot do that. I will say this, and I'm saying it, if you want to call it love, Jill, but you did get quite angry yourself back with Jerry. And as you know, y'all were going back and forth. But I can't condone what Jerry did. I think that he was way out of line, and I think that he should be censured. I just don't know what we should do. So maybe our attorney can tell us. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mayor Shawman?
Well, again, I too was there in an agreed meeting, and I asked Jill to be there to share her statement is factual. That's the way it went. If you heard the recording, you'd be able to hear the raised voices, but actually, I must admit, we all had raised voices because everybody was talking over each other, but his body language was just angry, just intimidating. So council, I don't know what you want to do. Oh, I'm sorry, you're still in charge, never mind.
I would, go right ahead, Mr. Clerk.
I was just gonna ask maybe, go ahead and do what you wanted to say, but I wanted to ask the attorney what.
We will hear from the attorney. The one piece that I'm a little bit unclear about is the opportunity to respond, but that doesn't necessarily change anything. We can move forward with action, but I would like to give Stella the opportunity to say what she had to say.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to say that my relationship with Jill goes back to our days in Corpus Christi. We both lived there. I've known her a good 30, 35 years. I can speak to her character. She is a person of sound mind and a great heart and very professional. So if the council has any indication of removing her from her position to remove her from a hostile environment, I don't think that would be fair.
I don't know.
I think Jay does a wonderful job at his job. All of our city employees, our marshals, we agree to disagree on a lot of things, but he is an outstanding marshal along with the others. Marty, as a city employee, they are all assets to Bandera. How all this has come about because of one person, it just isn't right. It isn't right. Everybody has the right to go to work and feel safe in that environment, and it's clear that there is a hostile environment at the city. And something has to be done. It has to be done.
It's called an election.
Absolutely, get out and vote.
That's right.
At this point, Dan, may we please hear from you about options moving forward? And I know you mentioned that the council could elect to have executive session, but I don't necessarily feel like that's what I want to do, but it's not just my decision, Dawn and Rosie.
I hate, I'm sorry, but Dan, don't you think we should talk about this in executive session?
Yeah, that is up to the council. I will temper my remarks in open session accordingly if we do it in open session.
Transparency.
Well, I really hate to say this, but I think it would be best that we did hold it in executive session, closed session, because this is a serious decision with someone's life. Thank you.
If I could just let the public know that there are items that the city attorney can make very clear to us that he will not be able to say in front of you all.
I agree.
Because they're related to other confidential personnel matters, and that's just a fact. So go ahead, Dan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
please.
address that. I don't have an issue with addressing that aspect of it, so everybody understands what the issues could or could not be. But I represent the entity, right? I don't represent the council, and I don't represent the employees. I represent the entity. And any liability that the entity might have from any behavior of employees or elected officials are things that I need to be able to brief my client about. Some of those things I may or may not feel comfortable or know if they're comfortable with me sharing in an open session. So you've heard the facts of what they're going to base any decision on. You don't have to make a decision, and if you feel like you've heard what you need to hear, you certainly can. If there are legal questions about any liability that comes from what you've heard, that's what I would address in closed session. But as far as the need to address anything in closed session about what you've heard, all I would say here is that if you believe due process for the situation mandates that you hear from Councilman Russ, then you can table this item if you want to. If you feel that you've heard enough information to know that even if whatever he says, that what you've heard constitutes a violation of your code of ethics, then you can proceed in the manner that you stated. If you want to hear what your options are in open session, I can go through those. If you would feel more comfortable hearing those in closed session, that's something I can go through in closed session. Just because something's discussed in closed session that's not intended to reflect a lack of transparency. Any final decisions have to be made in open session. I just want to make sure that the representatives of my client are comfortable asking any questions they want to ask. And I don't know what those questions are. So often you'll hear an attorney say, then let's go into closed session. Now, there's a lot of y'all in here. I hate to do that because you're going to have to go to your car and have a beer or something. Maybe that's what I would do before you come back. And I would try to keep it to one. I would try to keep it concise enough time that it's just one. But that's what we would have to do. If they want to go into closed session, though, that's why that would be. I can tell you. Let me just go through real quick so everybody knows what we're talking about. What these items are. Let me brief. So section 1.03269 of the Code of Ethics, because I doubt y'all, maybe you read it before you came out tonight, but if you did, because I don't have it memorized either. What it says is, city officials shall support the maintenance of a positive and constructive workplace environment for city employees and for citizens and businesses dealing with the city. City officials shall recognize their special role in dealing with city employees and refrain from creating the perception of inappropriate direction to staff. That's one of the items. The other item, I believe, let me scroll up here, and there might have been other things that could have been applicable, but these were the ones that came to mind. What's the other?
269?
I thought that's the one I just read.
That was the one that gets read.
255 and 269.
255, okay, that's the one I had. So 255 says conduct of city officials and employees. The professional and personal conduct of city officials and employees must be above reproach and avoid even the appearance of impropriety. City officials and employees shall refrain from abusive conduct, personal charges, or verbal attacks upon the character and motives of other city officials and employees, board, commission, and committee members, and the public. Now, if you've come to enough of our meetings, you are aware that we have dealt with some personnel issues this year. That's not a secret, right? And the civil treatment for employees training that was done in August was a recommendation of legal counsel that all employees and all elected officials go through that, so that we know how to treat each other in the workplace, so that our conduct reflects the values that Bandera holds and what is in our code of ethics. That was the intent of the training. And so this is a positive sign, though, that our employees feel comfortable that they can come forward and hold folks accountable. The difference with why this is being handled under the code of ethics, and that y'all are being able to witness this, is it was an elected official who was complained upon. If this is an employee and another employee, this is handled through our personnel policy. And that's an important difference to keep in mind. So if this were an employee and another employee, you probably wouldn't see all this. And we would probably have closed sessions, and we probably would, we would not be having this full discussion in the complaint in open session, unless that employee wanted it to be heard in open session. Otherwise, this council would deal with it in closed session. So I just think it's important to remember that distinction and as to why this is being done the way it's being done.
Will you please talk to us about what steps we can take if we choose?
That's right. If you choose to move forward, it is also taken straight from the Code of Ethics. And let me scroll down here. Apologize. So what it says, let me elaborate on that too. So the question was, can we remove this council member? You may not remove the council member. A district judge can remove a council member in a Class A general law municipality upon a petition to do so. And those petitions are limited in what the cause could be. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't believe that anything that we've heard here tonight is what is reflected in Chapter 21 of the Local Government Code for removal by a district judge, okay? So having said that, it still wouldn't be within the power of this council. What you have the power to do is what you've given yourselves the power in how you want to enforce against each other. This is your ordinance that you adopted, and this is what you said you're going to hold each other to account for. Those are, you can impose sanctions, such as a reprimand, formal censure, or a loss of committee assignments on any city official whose conduct does not comply with the city's ethical standards. Now, where it says the city council also may act to remove members, it's referring to boards, commissions, or committees. So you have that authority anyway. It's reiterated here because if you happen to have a board member or commissioner that falls short of the ethical standards, this is just saying that you can remove them from those assignments. That does not apply to a member of city council. So formal censure, loss of committee assignments, or reprimand, those are the sanctions that you can run. And you know, we need to discuss those are the types of things we could discuss in closed session if you want to discuss what those might be.
Well, I would like to hear what those might be. I don't know that.
I think we ought to go into executive session right now, because this is a big decision on someone's life, maybe, as far as what they're going to be doing. And
Rosie?
we can reconvene.
I agree with Don. Okay. Based on the request of the council members, let's see, let's get to it. The city council will convene in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074 personnel and/or 551071 consultation with an attorney for discussion or to receive legal guidance. So at this time, I will recess the regular meeting. It is 8:29. It is 9:10 and we are reconvening this regular meeting of the Bandera City Council. Item 2, the City Council may impose sanctions such as reprimand, formal censure, or loss of committee assignment on city officials whose conduct does not comply with the city's ethical standards. I'm going to make motion that the evidence of the statements brought before council today finds that Jerry Bruce was in fact in violation of section 1.03.225, conduct of city officials and employees. That was a motion. Is there a second? Okay, motion and second. Is there any discussion about this motion?
Question.
Yes, sir. Oh, okay, those in favor? Okay, all in favor and none opposed. I would also like to make a motion to find that Jerry Bruce was also in violation of section 1.03269, positive workplace environment. Is there a second? And a second, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, all in favor and none opposed. And I'm going to go ahead with a motion. And this has to do with like a reprimand or a consequence. My motion is that for a period of 6 months, the council member Bruce coordinate his presence in City Hall and all requests for documents through the city administrator in order to fulfill his duty as a council member. That was a motion. And a second. Rosie, any further discussion about that? Okay, all in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Mayor Shellman?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, moving right on along. Item 6. The city council will convene a closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074 for personnel to discuss the duties of a public officer or employee to put the city administrator council. I would certainly entertain a motion to table this item.
So moved.
Thank you, Rebecca. Do you have a second? Everybody second? That's awesome. Discussion?
Does that, so it will be on the next regular agenda?
I think actually a better idea if you would amend your motion to postpone this particular item to after the election so that we can start fresh and move forward.
Okay, I'm going to move to postpone this agenda item. Do I have to give a date?
No, if you're going to postpone, it's indefinite. A table, you can give a date, but on postponement, it's just postponed.
So Jerry, do you second my amendment to the motion? Or did you? Okay.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Actually, item 7 would not have any bearing. Item 8, requests and announcements. A, request by council to place items on the future agenda. Anything pressing anybody wants to get out there?
I would like to request that at our first
November 5.
meeting in December,
December.
that we review for the vacancy, council vacancy. Sorry, appointment of the vacant seat at our first meeting in December, which would be the 3rd.
Well, at some point, I guess we'll take it up at the next meeting.
No, ma'am.
I'm about to just call for about applicants. Okay. Also, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to do, some workshops, but I know everybody's tired tonight, so I'm not gonna list all that stuff tonight, but it's things to work on. Any further items? Item B, announcements by council? Mayor?
I just wanted to ask a question. I don't have a problem with your motion, but why can't we have a special election instead of another appointment?
It's past the date.
Well, I suppose that the council can make that decision. Special elections are held in May, is that correct?
That is
And
a
they
uniform
cost-
election date. They cost a fair amount of money. And that
And they
election
have to
would,
be a uniform election day.
yeah, it has to be, yeah, and it
That's
would
what I
only,
wanted, that's the explanation.
and it would only be until November, would be the length of that term filled in that special
The last
election.
one we did cost
Well, that's a
$5,000.
possibility we could discuss it.
7,000
Right,
now.
but that's the explanation has to be made, so we'd have to wait till then.
There you go. Okay. I announced the budget. Motion seconded, discussion, all in favor?